Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanodari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanodari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanodari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanodari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamnatira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanodari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanodari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. John Vishnupad Paramahansa Prabhu Jakataya Asatosa to Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace to the A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananda Gaura Vaishnava Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Prem Sika Host Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavandam Ki Jai, Shri Maya Purnavadam Ki Jai, Gangamai Ki Jai, Jamunamai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Somaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Go Premanandi, all glorious summer devotees, all glorious summer devotees, all glorious summer devotees, all glorious Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 8. We're beginning the chapter now, right? Now, yeah, right? Do you usually read the summary? Okay, here we go. Although Bharat Maharaj was very elevated, he fell down due to his attachment to a young deer. One day, after Bharat Maharaj had taken his bath as usual in the river Gandaki and was chanting his mantra, he saw a pregnant deer come to the river to drink water. Suddenly, there could be heard a thundering roar of a lion, and the deer was so frightened that it immediately gave birth to its calf. It then crossed the river, but died immediately thereafter. Maharaja Bharata took compassion upon the motherless calf, rescued it from the water, took it to its ashram, and cared for it affectionately. He gradually became attached to this young deer, and always thought of it affectionately. As it grew up, it became Maharaja Bharata's constant companion, and he always took care of it. Gradually he became so absorbed in thinking of this deer that his mind became agitated. As he became more and more attached to the deer, his devotional service slackened. Although he was able to give up his opulent kingdom, he became attached to the deer. Thus he fell down from his mystic yoga practice. Once, when the deer was absent, Maharaja Bharata was so disturbed that he began to search for it. While searching and lamenting the deer's absence, Maharaja Bharata fell down and died. Because his mind was fully absorbed in thinking of the deer, he naturally took his next birth from the womb of a deer. However, because he was considerably advanced spiritually, he did not forget his past activities, even though he was in the body of a deer. He could understand how he had fallen down from his exalted position, and remembering this, he left his mother deer and again went to Pulaha-āśrama. He finally ended his fruitive activities in the form of a deer, and when he died, he was released from the deer's body. Here's text 1. Sri Shuku Vacha Eda Dhatu Mahadhyam Kritabhisheka Nayam Ikha Vasyakko Brahmaksharang Abhignano Muhurta Jayam Udakanta Upavavesha. Translation. Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued, My dear king, one day, after finishing his morning duties, evacuating, urinating, and bathing, Maharaja Bharata sat down on the bank of the river Gandaki for a few minutes and began chanting his mantra, beginning with Omkar. So there's a number of verses here with no purports, so we'll just continue on. O king, while Bharata Maharaj was sitting on the bank of that river, a doe, being very thirsty, came there to drink. While the doe was drinking with great satisfaction, a lion, which was very close, roared very loudly. This was frightful to every living entity, and it was heard by the doe. By nature, the doe was always afraid of being killed by others, and it was always looking about suspiciously. When it heard the lion's tumultuous roar, it became very agitated. Looking here and there with disturbed eyes, the doe, although it had not fully satisfied itself by drinking water, suddenly leaped across the river. The doe was pregnant, and when it jumped out of fear, the baby deer fell from its womb into the flowing waters of the river. Purport. There is every chance of a woman's having a miscarriage if she experiences some ecstatic emotion or is frightened. It's interesting, even that she may have an ecstatic emotion, she may have a miscarriage. Interesting. Pregnant women should therefore be spared of all these external influences. Next text. Being separated from its flock and distressed by its miscarriage, the black doe, having crossed the river, was very much distressed. Indeed, it fell down in a cave and died immediately. The great King Bharat, while sitting on the bank of the river, saw the small deer, bereft of its mother, floating down the river. Seeing this, he felt great compassion. Like a sincere friend, he lifted the infant deer from the waves, and, knowing it to be motherless, brought it to his ashram. Purport. The laws of nature work in subtle ways, unknown to us. Maharaja Bharata was a great king, very advanced in devotional service. He had almost reached the point of loving service to the Supreme Lord, but even from that platform, he could fall down into the material platform. In Bhagavad Gita, we are therefore warned, Yang hinav yat yantyete, purusang purusarsabha, samaduka sukham dhiram, somatadvaya kalpate. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Bhagavad Gita 2:15. Spiritual salvation and liberation from material bondage must be worked out with great caution. Otherwise, a little discrepancy will cause one to fall down again into the material existence. By studying the activities of Maharaja Bharata, we can learn the art of becoming completely freed from all material attachment. As it will be revealed in later verses, Bharat Maharaj had to accept the body of a deer due to being overly compassionate for this infant deer. We should be compassionate by raising one from the platform, from the material platform to the spiritual platform. Otherwise, at any moment our spiritual advancement may be spoiled, and we may fall down onto the material platform. Maharaja Bharata's compassion for the deer was the beginning of his fall down into the material world. Om Jnana Tamanandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshum Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Krotavachalam Kangunlung Hayate Gurim Yat Kripa Tadaham Bande Shigurum Dinataranam Vanchakapa Tribhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Many times the first sentence in Prabhupada's purports are so deep. This is such an instance. The laws of nature work in subtle ways, unknown to us. Like a lot of people don't even know there are subtle laws that people are governed by. So Krishna, he sees the big picture. Us mortal beings are here in this world roaming around, but we can see very little. We don't know, what's happening in a large degree. But Krishna, he sees everything, just like they have these GPS, they have on our phones. So they have these satellites some hundreds of miles away, and they're able to see where we are. They give us directions. It's pretty amazing technology. But Krishna, he's the supreme GPS. He sees everything. And he directs us according to our desire and according to what we deserve. Just like they had this book or something. Whatever you want, you can get it. What was that? The Secret. Yeah, you just think of it. Just want it enough, and you'll get it. But they're not thinking of the karma aspect. You can't get whatever you want. There's karma, so we can't always get what we want. Sometimes they get what they want, but there's also the karma factor. So Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita what we should want that will help us in our journey to where we should want to be directed to, and that's the spiritual world. So he says, Man mana bhava madbhakta, to always think of me. Not easy to always think of Krishna, because we have this mind that wants to think of so many things. So many things. So always think of me. How to think of Krishna? His name, his form, his quality, his pastimes. If we could think of these four things, Prabhupada said this is the perfection of our japa. Name, form, quality, and pastimes. Of course, you shouldn't try to force the mind to think of these things. Prabhupada said, just hear the holy name, and gradually these things will come. But in the beginning, it's just hear. Don't let so many other things disturb our meditation on Krishna. So always think of me. Become my devotee. People devote themselves to so many things, just like we hear Bharat Maharaj. He's devoting himself to a deer. He was on such a high level. He was on the level of Bhav, almost there, praying. But he became devoted to a deer. It's like in this world, so many people are devoted to dogs. Sometimes people leave their fortunes to dogs, millions of dollars. There's dog parlors. Spend so much money, getting their hair curled. And there's such humble service. You go out on japa walks, or I go out on walks, and you see it all the time. The dog is doing their business, passing, and they very humbly, such humble service. They pull out their bag and pick it up, and sometimes they put it in their pocket. Very humble service. They don't want to serve God, so they want to serve dog. Actually, some devotees also now have dogs. When I was reading the purport, Prabhupada said dogs are evil. Because sometimes they'll just attack you, quite often, and they kill people. They'll just attack you and kill you. There was one time Brigapati was on Sankirtan, and this big dog, just came at him. I was just thinking, this is it. This time I'm dead. He's going to kill me. Big dog, just charging at him. Fortunately, he had a leash on him, so he stopped. Like he was about this far away. He couldn't attack Brigu. But people become very affectionate to dogs. Man's best friend. Wrong. Who is man's best friend? Krishna is man's best friend. Always thinking of our welfare. Dog, they don't know what to do for us. Of course, sometimes they protect their masters, but better be protected by Krishna. Right? He's better security. And Prabhupada mentions this in the purport. Spiritual salvation and liberation from material bondage must be worked out with great caution. You should be very careful. It's a dangerous place, this material world. Danger at every step, as it's stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Samasataye parapalava plavam mahat param punya somarari bhavam badhir vatsa param 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 yad vipadam natesham. Therefore, one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord as one's guide, one who accepted the lotus feet of the Lord as the boat is like the body. If one who accepted this body, it's like a boat. And the spiritual master, he's like the captain on the boat. And the favorable winds, this is the Vedic literatures. So it's interesting that I think this is by Krishna, right? Samasataye padapalava. So he says this body is like a boat. It's an unusual boat, but it's a boat by which we can cross over this vast ocean of material existence. Yeah. And Prabhupada was speaking about boats in the ocean because he took a boat across the ocean, the Atlantic. The first and last time Prabhupada traveled in a boat. So he said that when the ship is out there and there's fog, the boats have to just stop. And they blow their horn because there's so many boats out there. And they can just crash right into you. So when it's thick fog, they just sit there and blow their horn so that no other ship will crash into them. So it's very dangerous. The ocean is very dangerous. Like Prabhupada was with some devotees on the beach here in California. One devotee said, Prabhupada, isn't the ocean beautiful? I said, yeah, it's very beautiful. But from a distance. You get too close to it, and it can be your death. It's very dangerous. People die of shark attacks and shipwrecks and so many things. Attacks from other entities. There was one, that guy that used to wrestle with alligators. I forgot his name. Steve. The way he died, he got stung by a stingray or something like that. You know, on the barrier reefs there, just outside of Australia. You know, he's fighting with alligators, and he gets stung by and that's how he dies, by a stingray or something like that. Yeah. So the ocean is very dangerous. Sometimes because I go to Australia a lot, and I was thinking, boy, it'd be nice to go to the barrier reefs. You know, they're pretty. When I read that, I don't want to go there. It looks so beautiful, but it's dangerous. Yeah. It's a dangerous place. And Prabhupada said, just like a woman is very beautiful, but you get too close, she can cause great harm to you. And a woman towards a man also, very handsome man, but he gets too close, he can also cause so much harm. The material world. So, yeah, Srila Prabhupada actually, he said that the best security that we can have is to be aware that we're not the boat, that we're the soul within. If we're aware of our spiritual existence, that we're actually the soul within, then what harm can come to us? Because we're not the body. Harm can only come to the body, right? Soul's eternal. Can't be destroyed by any weapon. You can't be burned by fire. Can't be withered by the wind. You can't drown the soul. So if one is aware that one is the soul within, no problem. You know, even like Brigapati had that experience of the dog. Someone who is completely aware that I'm the soul, even that dog attacks. Can't attack me. Can't touch me. Like there was an unfortunate experience that I saw in Mayapur. It was Jayapataka Swami had just come back from Bombay, where he had the stroke, and there was a lot of devotees there greeting him. I mean, it was packed, like hundreds and hundreds of devotees greeting him, and he's in this, after that stroke. So I couldn't believe it. There was one man, an Indian man, he grabbed one lady, one Western lady, grabbed her breast. I couldn't believe it. And she shouted at him, "Don't you touch me!" And he was a little embarrassed. I couldn't believe it. But then after that happened, I was thinking, well, actually, he didn't touch you. He just touched your body, so he didn't really touch you. I mean, it was completely ridiculous that he did lost control of himself like that. But in reality, she's the soul within. He didn't touch her. He's thinking, in his foolishness, that he's touching a woman. It's a woman's body, but that's not going to give pleasure. It caused him suffering. He was embarrassed. So many people there saw him do it. Lose control of yourself. It's an embarrassment. The bodily conception of life, it's an embarrassment. Maharaja Prabhupada said that the soul is embarrassed to be in the material body. The soul is embarrassed to be in the material body because this is not who we are. And what is the nature of the soul? Eternality, knowledge, bliss. So this is the nature of the soul. But we're stuck in these bodies that are temporary, cause so much suffering, and eternality, and there's so much ignorance. It's an embarrassment. And we lose control of ourselves, just like that guy, lost control, caused so much suffering. So it's an embarrassment to be in these bodies. But if we take seriously Krishna consciousness, then it can be a boon to have the human form of life, because it's an opportunity to get out. But we have to learn that. Actually, Prabhupada says here in the purport, as it will be revealed in later verses. Oh, here we go. By studying the activities of Maharaja Bharata, we can learn the art of becoming completely freed from all material attachment. So, what are we learning from Maharaja Bharata? What are we learning from this? Don't be so attached to this body or to other bodies, a doe body or a woman's body or a dog body or any of these bodies. Sometimes people have tiger pets, become attached to their tiger pet. You imagine that? Having a tiger, Bengal tiger, man. Jeez, you have to be real cautious with that one. So, the art. We have to learn the art of becoming completely free of material attachments. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita how to be free. Dhyayato visyang pungsas sangaste subhajayate sangat sanjayate kama kama krodho bhajayate. That while contemplating the objects of the senses, one while contemplating the objects of the senses, one becomes attached to such stuff. And from such attachment, lust develops. From lust, anger. From anger, delusion. From delusion, bewilderment of memory. From bewilderment of memory, the intelligence is lost. When the intelligence is lost, one falls down again, the material pool. So we have to nip it at the bud. That means start it or stop it at the early stages. There's early stages of attachment. Just like Bharata Maharaj, when he found that he was becoming a little bit too attached to this deer, he should have let it go. He should have just let it go. But as Dravida quite often says, that he didn't have association, didn't have a guru, Didn't have any god brothers around saying, "Hey, Prabhu, you're getting a little too attached to this little fawn here." But he didn't have that association. Therefore, association is so very important. So, yeah, we have to nip it at the bud. And the best way to nip it at the bud is reading Prabhupada's books and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is the process in this age for nipping it at the bud. Stopping our material attachments. As soon as they come up, as soon as those material attachments come up, just Hare Krishna. This is our only hope for getting out of this ocean of material existence. And it's said that when one takes seriously to Krishna consciousness, this vast ocean of material existence becomes no bigger than the water contained in the hoofprint of a calf. Very easy to cross. Yeah. We have to get that mercy of Krishna. We have to learn the art of taking shelter of Krishna and becoming free of these material things. Now it's laudable to Maharaja Bharata that he had this compassion, but he took it too far. And Prabhupada mentions here in the purport, real compassion. We should be compassionate by raising one from the material platform to the spiritual platform. So therefore Prabhupada, he started this book distribution. Because by this book distribution, we're giving people an opportunity to understand who they are. So this is the most benevolent activity that a person can do. Because people, by reading Prabhupada's books, they come to understand, hey, I'm not this body. I'm the soul within. Yeah. I don't know of any other book where you could read it and come to the realization, I'm the soul. Just Prabhupada's books. So therefore it's so important that we get these books out. So important. Nothing is more important. And therefore it's stated, we chant this every day, Sakshad Darit Vena Samasta Sastra, that the spiritual master, he is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord. Why? Because he's the most confidential servant of the Lord. And Prabhupada was speaking about this, and he said that confidential service is giving Krishna consciousness to others. Because Krishna himself comes to do this. He doesn't come and speak the Bhagavad Gita just to Arjuna. No, he speaks it to the whole world. And we're giving out this message to others. And Krishna is so pleased. Yaidang paramanguyam. Krishna says, there's no one more dear to me than that person who is giving this great secret to others. No one is more dear to me than that person. And Prabhupada, a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, we're giving your books to people, and they're reading them, and they're appreciating them. A lot of people are appreciating them. We meet people that are appreciating your books, and they get more. But Prabhupada, what if they don't get initiated? They have your books, they have faith, some of them are even following your teachings, but they're not initiated. And Prabhupada said, just by reading my books and following the teachings, they're initiated. Amazing, huh? And Prabhupada gave that example of one devotee whose mother passed away. And he was right there when she passed away. And she said, where is your Krishna now? She was remembering Krishna just at the moment of her. Prabhupada said she went back home. No initiation. Probably, I'm sure she didn't chant 16 rounds a day. You know, but she remembered Krishna due to the mercy of her son. He was there, and he was probably, chanting or something, helping her along in her journey. So this body, Prabhupada said, this body is a bad bargain. We were in the spiritual world, and we thought, well, Krishna's in the center. I want to be the center. So we were thinking in this way. As Davida said yesterday, we continually think like that. I want to be the center. False ego. So it's a bad bargain, though. So the best use of a bad bargain is to use this body in the service of Krishna, in giving Krishna to others. That's the best use of a bad bargain. Using this body somehow or another and giving Krishna to others. Whether it's prasadam or the holy name or books, the best way is the books. It's like in the beginning, devotees were doing Harinam. That was the main way that we were getting out to the people. Sharing Krishna consciousness was the holy name. But Prabhupada, he wanted these books distributed. And he got them printed. And he sent them to temples. But devotees didn't have a clue on how to distribute them. They were just sitting there in boxes. Lots of boxes just sitting in temples all over the country. No one knew what to do with them. When Prabhupada came, he put the books in stores on consignment. So devotees tried that, and he put a few in books, on consignment. Didn't go out too much, a little bit, trickles, a little bit. But Prabhupada wanted them distributed in mass. So it was amazing how it just happened, an accident. At least there was one instance where some devotees were on traveling Sankirtan, and they weren't on traveling Sankirtan. They just had they were doing some shopping or something, and they had some books and they got some gas, and the devotee said, well, to the attendant, the gas attendant, would you take this book instead of money? And he looked at the book and he said, yeah, all right, yeah, I'll take the book instead. And the devotees were like, wow. People, they'll give money. They'll give money for the book. So then they started going door to door. And the first day they did like 5 Krishna books. And that was the world record. 5 books in one day. I think Karandar in San Francisco, he was calling around, called his brother. Karandar was in Los Angeles. His brother was in San Francisco. His brother was arranging this. So he called up his brother and said, yeah, we just did 5 Krishna books. He said, what? Yeah, door to door. It's like, how's it possible? So they started in Los Angeles, and gradually it just exploded gradually to the point where one devotee did 900 books in one day. One devotee actually did 2,700 in one day. Yeah, but he was doing it in these big warehouses. He would go into these warehouses and he'd do 400 books in one warehouse. You'd go talk to the manager, and this is in Russia. Yeah. So he was going around to these big businesses, and he would convince them to give for the whole. Pretty pure to do that. He convinced the owner to give these books to all your employees. So, yeah, come a long way. We've come a long way. I wanted to read something in this regard about preaching. This is compilations of Prabhupada's books, calendar. It's nice that one devotee gave this to me. So Prabhupada wrote a letter to Subal. This is November 12th, 1967. Very interesting. He said, the principle of chanting is to glorify the Lord and not to attract a crowd. If Krishna hears nicely, then he will come. If Krishna hears nicely, then he will ask some sincere devotee to gather in such a place. So I was thinking Prabhupada is the epitome of this. That Prabhupada was preaching so nicely, so purely, just to glorify Krishna. That Krishna sent so many nice people to him. It was called the Hare Krishna Explosion. There's a book called the Hare Krishna Explosion by Hayagriva Prabhu. Really nice book. You know, devotees were joining like right, left, and center all over the country. Just to give you an example, there was devotees on traveling Sankirtan, and they'd go to a university and knock on a door. They used to do the dorms, and they'd open the door and, oh no, I already got one of those books. Some of your friends have been here already. I said, oh, okay. So someone had already been at the campus, so they'd go to another campus, knock on the door. Oh no, I have one of these books already. Like, oh, okay, all right. Well, let me try another campus. They go to another campus, and no, we've already seen you people. You got. And then you think, well, I'm going to go to a very remote place. I'm going to find something out in the mountains where there's no way is there any devotees out there. So they drive out there in the mountains, and they're driving and driving to get a first door. Oh no, I have one of those already. They're just devotees were everywhere. They're everywhere because Prabhupada wanted the books distributed, and he said, if you want to please me, distribute books, and that everyone should join the Sankirtan party. So devotees were just everywhere, and they were joining everywhere, because of the sincerity of Prabhupada. You know, that's why this Hare Krishna explosion went on, because of that sincerity. It was amazing. So, any question or comment? Yes, Bhakti Daniel.
Thank you, Vijay Prabhu, for a wonderful class. My question relates to the understanding of taking, like how will you take birth in the next life. And so I learned that, you know, if you're in the body of a monkey, a lion, or a cow, the three modes of material nature in the forms of these animals, your next life is guaranteed to be a human life. Is this correct?
Prabhupada mentions that someone in the body of a cow, they take the human birth next. The monkey, I forgot passion or ignorance or something like that.
Monkey being ignorance, lion being passion, cow being goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then my question though is, Mahabharata took the form of a deer, or was it
fawn?
Fawn. But he was able to take a birth of human life next. So there's possibilities of taking life as a human even after just certain lower births?
Yeah, well the thing is very unusual that an animal is able to remember their previous birth. As we just read, he remembered his previous birth as a devotee. So it's described he went back to Pulaha-āśrama, to where the sages were. He even went back to the ashram where the sages were. And he just associated with the devotee. Just like sometimes it happens that animals, it's like I was in Australia, in New Govardhan there, and the peacock would come every day for Srimad Bhagavatam class. Of course, he would sit outside, but he would just come every day. Devotees were like amazed. Just come and sit there. We'd have the door open. It's like it's kind of like it's not the way they built it. It's not built for a temple. It was just a temporary thing. So they just opened the sliding doors and let the fresh air in. So the peacock comes and just sits there every day. And there's dogs, many pastimes of dogs also, showing some attraction to Krishna. And even there's that pastime of Srinivasacharya, I think it was or Srivas Thakur, Shivananda Saint. He had this dog. He just found this this dog. Indian dog. You've never been to India, but Indian dogs are they're really shabby and they don't look healthy at all. And but he took the dog on the party and he took care of it. And he had to do some errand, and he told the devotees, take care of the dog, make sure you feed him. And when he came back, the dog was gone. He was thinking, oh, the devotee, did you feed him? Well, we forgot. Now he's offended and he's left. So he told the devotee, go find him. He sent devotees out to find him. This is, although he was completely Krishna conscious, even in the saint, he had this compassion for this dog. You could say it's not an ordinary dog. So then they didn't find him. But then when they got to Jagannath Puri, they found out that the dog was there, and Lord Chaitanya was throwing, I think, coconut pulp to the dog, and he's catching it, eating this from Lord Chaitanya's hand. Imagine that. I mean, my God, what mercy, huh? Inconceivable. So then, as Lord Chaitanya was telling, chant Hare Krishna, and he was chanting, right? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. I don't know, he chanted, something like that. Huh? And then it's described that he went back to Godhead, went back home. So this is the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. But Prabhupada said that if an animal gets prasadam, next life, human life. Yeah. And so many people that we're distributing books to, they're practically like animals. Yeah. Dvipada Pashu, right? They're animals. They're living like animals, just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So what we're doing through book distribution is we're turning the animals, Dvipada Pashu, into human beings. Yeah. In this life, from their animal life, they get they become human beings. Yeah. So this is the mercy of Srila Prabhupada through this mission of book distribution. I mean, if Prabhupada had not come, nobody would be distributing books. We wouldn't have the books, of course. And one devotee, my Sankirtan leader in Miami, he said, Vijay, we should have such determination to distribute Prabhupada's books that even if everybody leaves the Krishna consciousness movement, and you're the only one left, you should get the books printed and distribute. And I thought, wow, that's determination. I mean, a lot of people have come and left, as we've seen. So he gave that example. Even if everybody leaves, we have to continue distributing books. And then more people will come. Prabhupada once said that this movement can't be stopped. It's too late. The books are out there. Nothing can stop this movement now. Even if there's just the books, even if everybody left and there's just books, it would pick up again. I'll give you an example of that. In Russia, there was a man that got a book somehow, not from a Sankirtan devotee, maybe a friend, or somehow he got a book. And he was on a quest. He wanted to know, what is the truth? Why am I here? What's the goal of life? So I think it was Science of Self-Realization, one of these books. And in the book, he said this knowledge is so important that it should be distributed. It should be given throughout the world. So he was so inspired by this book. He read it 3 times, and he was like, wow, this is a big lift for me. This is fantastic. So he was a businessman. He had some money, so he read that and thought, well, I should print these books out and distribute them as is being instructed here. So he went to the printer. He had about 1 or 200 printed. And he was out distributing books. Never met a devotee, didn't know anything. Zip, nothing. But he's out distributing books. So here's an example of someone who had never met a devotee, but he's embracing it and distributing books. Now, what's interesting is some Sankirtan devotees came through this town, and they were distributing books. And one person they approached said, "Oh yeah, I just got one of these books recently. Somebody else was distributing." I said, "Oh, there's some Sankirtan devotees here." So they thought, just go around and continue distributing. So they're distributing. They met somebody else that already got a book. And like, wow, that's nice. Some more book distributors around. So then they continue distributing. Then they come across this person that's distributing books. And they see him with the books, and the devotees say, "Well, Haribo, Prabhu." And he says, "Haribo? What's that?" "What do you mean? You're distributing books? You don't know Haribo?" I said, No, what's Haribo? Haribo means that, Hari is the name of God. "Oh, okay, Hari is the name of God. I didn't know that." "You didn't know Hari is the name of God? You're distributing books." He said, what temple are you from?" He said, "Temple? There's temples?" "Yeah, there's temples. You're distributing books, you don't know Haribo, and you don't know about temples? How is this possible? How are you distributing books? How is this possible?" He said, "Well, I got one of these books, and in the book it said it's important to distribute this knowledge to others, so I went to the printer and I printed, and so I'm distributing." And the devotees were just like, couldn't believe it. Unbelievable. So there's the example. So you have to just get the message, get this divine message out to the people. Some people will appreciate, some won't. It's Kali Yuga, obviously. But many will appreciate. Sometimes I meet people on book distribution. They quote from Prabhupada's purports. "Oh, I love that quote, So they memorize. Some of these people, it's happened quite a few times. People memorize little pithy statements, just little nice statements that they appreciate. So they're reading Prabhupada's books. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki?